Most people spend their entire lives mistaking movement for living. They run, they chase, they struggle, they accumulate, and in the end they call this chaos life. But deep inside, a small voice keeps whispering, "This is not it." You may silence it with distractions, with responsibilities, with noise, but it returns again and again. Because somewhere within you, there is a knowing, an undeniable truth, that you are not truly living your life, and you know it. Most people spend their lives in a quiet paralysis without ever realizing it. They breathe, they work, they talk, they move, so they assume they are living. But existence and life are not the same. Existing is mechanical. It needs no awareness, no courage, no depth. Living, however, demands an inner spark, a flame that comes from curiosity, spontaneity, and an open heart. Somewhere along the way, fear stole that flame from you. Fear replaced curiosity so subtly, so silently, that you didn't even notice the moment you stopped exploring and started merely surviving. As a child, you approached the world with wonder, touching everything, questioning everything, running toward the unknown with laughter. Then one day, someone said, "Don't do this, don't go there, be careful, what will people think?" And piece by piece, your sense of wonder was wrapped in layers of caution. The world trained you to shrink before you ever learned how to grow. Conditioning came next, slow, persistent, relentless. You were told what is right, what is wrong, what is possible, what is impossible. You were hammered into a shape that suited the world, not your soul. You were taught to fit in, not to unfold. And so the natural freedom that you were born with, the freedom to feel, to question, to be, was replaced by a script you never wrote. You perform it every day, believing it to be your life. But deep down, something within you remains untouched, unexpressed, waiting. Because freedom cannot be destroyed, it can only be buried. And fear is the soil that buries it deepest. Fear makes you obey without understanding, follow without questioning, hesitate without reason. It keeps you at the edge of your own life, observing rather than participating. You choose safety over possibility, comfort over truth, routine over adventure. You stop taking risks, not because you don't want to, but because you've forgotten how. Curiosity once pulled you forward, but fear now pulls you back. And the saddest part is that you have accepted this as normal. You call it maturity, responsibility, realism. But it is not realism, it is resignation. When fear governs your choices, life loses its color. Curiosity paints the world in shades of possibility, but fear paints it in warnings. You don't taste experiences, you measure them. You don't follow your heart, you follow expectations. You don't act from your being, you act from your conditioning. And so your life becomes a repetition of habits, a continuation of borrowed beliefs, a reflection of voices that are not your own. You exist, but the aliveness inside you remains dormant. True living begins only when curiosity returns, when you allow yourself to question what you have accepted for too long. It begins when you recognize that conditioning is not identity, that fear is not intuition, that freedom is your natural state. Somewhere within you, beneath the layers of fear and conditioning, the original flame still glows. It waits for the moment you stop shrinking and start seeing. It waits for you to live again. Life is not something that happens yesterday or tomorrow. It unfolds only in the space that exists right now. The present moment is the only reality you ever truly touch. Yet you rarely inhabit it. Your body may sit here, breathe here, exist here, but your mind is wandering in places that no longer exist or in places that have not yet come into being. This constant drifting creates a distance between you and life itself. You are surrounded by the miracle of existence, yet you are absent from it, like a guest who has left the room while the feast is being served. The mind has a strange habit of escaping what is by clinging to what was, or fantasizing about what might be. It pulls you into memories, some sweet, some painful, and traps you in their echo. Or it pushes you forward into imagined futures full of expectations, fears, and possibilities that remain uncertain, fragile, unformed. In both directions, it distracts you from the only place where life breathes, this moment. The past has a seductive pull because it feels familiar. You know its stories, its mistakes, its joys, its wounds. You revisit it not because it is useful, but because it gives you an illusion of identity. You think, this is who I am, and so you carry old experiences like heavy luggage. The mind loves this weight because it keeps you predictable, confined, easy to control. But the truth is that the past is dead. It has no pulse. Every time you return to it emotionally, you exchange your living present for a memory that cannot nourish you. You replay old scenes in your head, trying to change them, justify them, or understand them, forgetting that life does not flow backward. And then there is the future, the opposite illusion. It fascinates you because it promises possibilities. You imagine what could happen, what should happen, what must happen. The mind pulls you into dreams, fears, ambitions, and plans, and convinces you that your happiness depends on this imagined world. You begin to chase outcomes that don't exist yet, postponing your peace for a moment that may never arrive. Anxiety becomes the cost of living in a time that hasn't happened. Hope becomes another way of escaping the present. Both are subtle prisons, decorated with your desires and fears. When the mind lives in the past or future, it creates a constant inner noise. You may be physically present, but internally absent. You walk without walking, listen without hearing, breathe without feeling the breath. You lose the ability to experience the richness of life as it unfolds. The colors around you fade, the sensations dull, the beauty of ordinary moments goes unnoticed. Because to truly see, you must be here. To truly love, you must be here. To truly live, you must be here. Life flows like a river, and the present moment is the only place where you can step into the water. Yet the mind stands on the riverbank, analyzing the currents of the past or predicting the waves of the future. It is terrified of entering the now because the now cannot be controlled. It is raw, unpredictable, alive. But that is precisely why it is real. When you return to this moment, when you drop the mind's stories and simply exist, something shifts. A deep stillness appears, a clarity, a freedom that cannot be found anywhere else. In that silence, life is no longer something happening around you. It becomes something happening within you. You make promises to yourself that one day you will start living. One day you will take that risk, speak your truth, follow your passion, break your patterns, step into your courage, choose your happiness. But that one day keeps moving farther away, always slightly beyond your reach. It becomes a mirage you chase but never touch. You tell yourself you are waiting for the right time, the right situation, the right mood, the right opportunity. Yet deep down you know the truth. The right moment does not come on its own. Circumstances don't change themselves, and life does not shape itself around your hesitation. The day you are waiting for never arrives because you yourself never arrive in your own life. Postponing becomes a habit so subtle that you barely notice its grip on you. You say, I'll start when things settle down, but things never truly settle. You say, I'll begin when I feel ready, but readiness never comes without movement. You say, I just need a little more time, but time keeps slipping quietly through your fingers. Instead of living, you prepare to live. Instead of acting, you plan endlessly. Instead of moving forward, you remain in the doorway of your own existence, looking inside but never entering. People postpone life because they fear the discomfort of change. They want the reward without the risk, the transformation without the effort, the freedom without the uncertainty. The mind creates the illusion that someday circumstances will magically align, that clarity will appear, that courage will arise on its own. But courage is not something you wait for, it is something you choose. Life responds to movement, to intention, to action. As long as you stand still, your life remains still with you. You may believe that you are being practical or cautious, but postponing is nothing but fear disguised as wisdom. You convince yourself that you are protecting yourself, but in truth you are only delaying your own growth. You are postponing not because the world is holding you back, but because you are avoiding the inner shift required to step into a larger version of yourself. Change asks something from you: honesty, effort, vulnerability, surrender, and you resist giving it. So you wait for circumstances to bend, hoping external changes will save you from the work you must do within. But life does not negotiate with hesitation. It flows forward without waiting, without pausing, without turning back to see whether you are coming. When you postpone, you are not delaying the moment, you are delaying yourself. Every time you say later, you reinforce the belief that you are not ready for your own life, and slowly, invisibly, later becomes a pattern. The dreams you protect by postponing slowly wither. The opportunities you delay quietly fade. The passions you ignore begin to feel like distant memories. The day you hope for will never arrive until you arrive first. Circumstances change when you change. Life shifts when you shift. The world opens when you open. The moment you stop postponing and step into action, even a small one, you discover that the power you were waiting for was always waiting for you. From childhood you were taught to look outward before looking inward, to measure yourself through the eyes of others, to adapt, adjust, and shape-shift so you could be accepted. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, you learned to perform. You learned to smile when you weren't happy, to agree when your heart resisted, to follow paths that didn't belong to you. You became an actor in your own story, rehearsing roles that were handed to you long before you understood you had the right to choose. And because the world applauds those who fit the mold, you forgot that your real life cannot be lived through other people's expectations. It can only unfold when you begin to listen to the voice inside you, the voice that has been drowned beneath layers of noise, fear, and conditioning. That inner voice has spoken to you many times. In moments of silence, in moments of discomfort, in moments of longing. It whispers when you are alone, it nudges you when you feel misaligned, it tugs at you when you betray yourself for approval. But because you have been trained to prioritize the world's opinions over your own truth, you push it aside. You tell yourself you are being responsible, respectful, realistic. Yet deep down you know you are simply afraid. Afraid of disappointing others, afraid of standing out, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being yourself. Performing for others is exhausting because it demands constant effort. You must maintain an image, polish a persona, live up to expectations that keep shifting like shadows. You become hyper-aware of how you appear, how you sound, what people think, how they might react. This constant tension creates a silent inner fatigue, a restlessness that no amount of success or praise can soothe. Because praise given to your performance never nourishes the real you. It only strengthens the mask. Your inner voice, on the other hand, asks nothing from you. It does not demand perfection, applause, or conformity. It asks only for honesty. It asks for the courage to peel away the layers of pretending. When you begin to listen to it, even in small ways, you experience a shift, a lightness, a clarity. The choices you make begin to align with your nature rather than with the world's demands. You stop chasing validation because you no longer need permission to exist as you are. Listening to your inner voice does not make life easier in the beginning. It may even make it more challenging. Some people may not understand your choices. Some may distance themselves when you stop catering to their expectations. But the space they leave behind becomes room for your true self to breathe. And in that breath, life begins to feel real, raw, unpredictable, alive. The moment you stop performing, you reclaim your energy. You reclaim your time, you reclaim your identity. Every action becomes more intentional. Every decision more authentic. Every step more grounded. Begin to realize that your life is not a stage, and you are not here to play roles written by someone else. You are here to unfold, to grow from within, to live from the center of your own being. And the more you listen to that quiet inner guidance, the more you discover a strength that was never visible on the stage of performance. Your true life begins not with applause, not with perfection, not with approval, but with a single courageous moment when you turn inward and say, I am ready to hear myself. From that moment onward, you are no longer living as a character. You are living as yourself. Most people think life will become fuller by constantly adding more. More possessions, more achievements, more relationships, more knowledge, more status. They imagine that the path to fulfillment is a path of accumulation. But the more they add, the heavier they become. Life begins to feel crowded, complicated, burdened. They carry layers of desires, expectations, fears, roles, and identities that slowly suffocate their inner clarity. What they do not realize is that real living does not arise from adding. It arises from removing. It comes not from becoming someone more, but from becoming someone true. Living is an act of shedding, an unburdening, a gentle stripping away of everything false, so your authentic self can finally breathe. From childhood, you were covered in layers that were never yours. You inherited beliefs from your family, absorbed fears from society, adopted behaviors to please others, and built identities to protect yourself. Each layer became a mask, and each mask took you further away from your essence. You began to forget the simplicity and innocence of your being. You forgot the lightness that comes from being unfiltered and unafraid. The world taught you to impress instead of express, to pretend instead of reveal, to accumulate instead of awaken. And so life, which is naturally effortless, began to feel like a struggle. Not because life is difficult, but because carrying what is not yours is difficult. Shedding the false is an act of rejection. It is an act of remembrance. It is remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. When you start peeling away the layers, you may feel discomfort because the masks have been with you for so long that they almost feel like skin. You may fear losing approval, relationships, or identities that once gave you security. But what you lose is only illusion. What remains is truth. And truth has a power, a peace, a luminosity that no amount of external accumulation can ever offer. Living becomes simple when you stop performing and start being. The need to prove yourself dissolves. The obsession with what others think loses its grip. The anxiety created by endless desires fades naturally when you realize you do not need more to be whole. You need less. You need less noise, less pretending, less attachment, less self-judgment. In the spaciousness that arises, your breath becomes deeper, your mind becomes quieter, your heart becomes clearer. You begin to see life not through the haze of conditioning, but through the clarity of presence. Every time you let go of something false, you make space for something real. When you release fear, courage appears. When you drop expectations, freedom arises. When you let go of who you think you should be, who you truly are steps forward. This is the quiet miracle of shedding. The more you remove, the more you discover. The emptier you become of illusions, the fuller you become with life. To live is not to build a grand identity. To live is to uncover the being beneath all identities. It is to return to your natural state of openness, sensitivity, and awareness. When the false falls away, even for a moment, you feel an ease, a lightness, a deep exhale. That exhale is the sound of your real self finally breathing.